Hey, welcome back to the Tech Ed Clubhouse podcast. Today, I am here with Sean O'Shea from Massachusetts. And Sean is a principal and a learning leader committed to building schools where deep thinking, strong instruction, and meaningful collaboration drive the results. He believes the most effective schools balance high expectations with strong relationships and create environments where both students and the teachers succeed. Sean, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing over there in Massachusetts.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a first, and I'd say a little nervous, so I appreciate this. Yeah, this is my 35th year in education. I spent the majority of it in elementary. I started off in third grade, 14 years there, then got a chance to be a math coach and job share in quite a large building, 800 kids. And that translated then into a dean role, and then of course administration, team chair, assistant principal, and then principal in the Lancaster, where I was for 14 years. And I had the pleasure of doing middle school and elementary in the same year. That was, I have no hair now, and
I get you.
But it realized, like, when I taught third grade, I thought middle schoolers were scary. They were tall, they were big, I realized in that year I love middle schoolers. They're funny. They're engaging. They also can really reflect and change. You can see in that 3-year time. You were in middle school, right?
I was 32 years in the seventh grade. Yes.
Well, seventh grade's that's the most interesting year.
That's one way to put it.
And so I asked to stay at the middle school, and I've been there for the past 4 years and really have enjoyed it. Also, that's about the time like AI started to come in to the world, and I have a currently 29-year-old son and a 22-year-old son, and they were like, "Dad, you got to see this AI." And I remember the first day it came out, and they were showing me how it could write. My son also worked at Tesla for a while when he was very young and was there about 4 years, and he's like, computers are learning from themselves. They're watching video and learning, and it's called AI. And I was like, I don't understand.
Right.
The first time I sat in a Tesla and had to drive itself, there's a moment of panic there. But so, I started to understand AI. In the summer, I just started feeling really frustrated because education is so slow to change. And I was looking for best practices. How do I lead my school in this? I'd been using it myself for a couple years, and it just seemed like there was no direction. And so, and seeing what my sons do with it and how the business world changes so quickly and the expectations, I finally just said this year, okay, I got to dive in. And there were 4 areas I really thought I'd dive in this year, and that was building teacher capacity. Building off of Tony Frontier's work about authenticity and integrity. We didn't really have a system to talk to kids about that. And then returning to some of my roots from when I started teaching about metacognition and learning to learn, because when the kids leave us, when they graduate, they're going to have to adapt. We don't know what that world is going to be like. And then the fourth area is more for me and for the school is just AI for efficiency. I mean, it's all encompassing. It's AI is going to shape and not just reshape learning, but everything. Education is not really good at adapting to second world or second order effects. It really adapts only when it has to, and I think we have to be more intentional. I was thinking about, you probably experienced this. Remember when email came in?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was in that big building I was talking about in elementary school. I was way up top on a second floor. Every day before email, I had to go down and get my memo from my box for attendance, talk to Bev at the secretary's desk, see the principal, you talk to people along the way. No one, when email came in, did we ever think like it might have an effect of reducing connections? Like, you didn't have to go to your mailbox anymore, right?
That's an interesting take. I never really thought about that in that regard, right? Like getting out of your classroom to actually go to the office and have a conversation with and be a person.
Yeah.
Right. and
Yeah.
and in middle school, sometimes you just need to talk to another adult. Well,
And connect
what constitutes an adult in middle school, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, most middle school teachers are just big teenagers.
Yes.
The and you make a connection with the most important school person in the school, the secretary, admin assistant, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of the approach I've taken this year is really trying to work on those four areas. Each staff meeting, I embed something about AI. And one of your past episodes, I think it was Steve Frank was talking about the best PDs learning from each other. We have an AI lead in the school. That's a district initiative, who is a science teacher, and he gets up and presents every meeting in addition to things I do. Or he goes to common planning times and tries to support. But one of the first staff meetings I did a survey. Of course, I built an app for that, and
Right.
and asked, out of 25 teachers, 7 said they had used AI. That's this year, not last year. 7 said they had used AI, 5 rarely, 2 more often, and the others really had only touched it once or twice. So I quickly realized we had a real gap. Like, I think our kids were, beyond the teachers at that point.
Yeah, because you kind of then, if you got that, how many teachers you got in your building there, Sean?
About 25,
All
with
right, you did say that.
yeah, with
25. I'm
with special ed and
sure.
SLPs and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you got, out of your teachers and just that's a hard with only one or two possibly like being acceptable, I guess, at AI tools
Yeah.
and using it. You almost kind of get into do you have a little bit of that like fear, um, intimidation factor going on? Because you're talking about building capacity
Yeah.
with it. The fear of, hey, if I give a kid an assignment, he's going to use ChatGPT to write the assignment type of thing. And how are you dealing with some of that stuff?
Well, I think first getting the teachers to understand what it does. Like I think they needed permission to use it. I think they were scared, like they were cheating.
Yeah, that's a huge mindset thing right there. That what you just said, because I've come across some of that stuff too, Sean, where it's like teachers need permission to, because they've been beaten down by the system, so to speak,
Yeah.
right? Like, here's this program, here's this initiative, we're buying this curriculum, teach it this
Yeah.
way. And at least I know that's the way kind of some of the schools are here in New York State. That permission piece is huge.
Yeah, play with it. Try. That actually first survey, I wanted them to. They had to say where they were on a usage scale, and then they had to pick one of two things. They could make a quiz, or they could make sub plans. They would have to put in a standard, and then they would click a button, and then it did it for them, because I wanted to see how quick it was. That we weren't even into iteration, but like, oh, the principal's telling me I can do this. So then they started to, using it more like teachers pay teachers. But as the years gone on, so mid-year, I talked about metacognition. We're really pushing that with the kids and getting them to reflect. Mid-year, I gave the teachers a gem in Gemini. So I sent it to them. I told them it's theirs, it's private, it's not data coming back to me. And it asked them a couple questions like, how did the first part of the year go academically? And then how do you know that? Like, what did you see in your students? Yeah. What did you see in your students that showed growth? And then it asked like 2 more questions, and it was AI. So it was pushing them and asking them follow-up questions. And it was hard for them.
Yeah.
We asked kids, go ahead.
It's a pretty simple question too. Like how do you know your kids are learning? They probably, even you probably got some veteran teachers that have been there for quite a while. You probably got a couple newbies that have been there for a year or two, right? And as a 32-year veteran teacher, and yourself too, you're like, looking back, how do I know my kids were learning something? How do I know they knew it?
And we often just push data at kids, like
Yeah.
here at the student teachers, here's the star data, here's the MCAS. Like this is just them. How do you feel? And how, and it was funny doing that because I wanted two things. I wanted them to reflect, and at the end of it, they'd have a goal they developed for the next month.
Hmm.
Two, none of them had used AI as a thought partner.
Yeah.
None of them. So this was helping them engage AI as a dialogue partner in thinking. And the funniest thing was my counselor. I could hear her audibly go at one point, no, no. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm the one who asked these questions. This makes me uncomfortable.
Right. Right. And those are big questions. And I think that, you know, like you're talking about, that thought partner piece is a great place to start with the teacher. Because, it sounds like you're kind of in a smaller school district.
Yeah.
Probably, I would guess you probably got about 125 kids per grade level, maybe a little bit
Oh,
more.
80.
80, right? So very similar to where I was. And
Yep.
and sometimes I was the STEM teacher.
Yeah.
I was the only STEM teacher in the building. I didn't have anybody to bounce ideas off of,
Yep.
right? You have one eighth grade science teacher, you have one seventh grade
Yep.
English teacher. They don't have any, I mean, they have a department, but that 11th grade English teacher's not going to
Yep.
be able to speak to what a 12-year-old student's going to do necessarily. So that's what a great way to start with a low floor, a substitution really, like if you're looking in the SAMR model, the substitution level, right? Same thing
Right.
we ask our kids to do, right?
Yep.
It's that same thing that the teacher probably asked the kids to reflect on their work. And it's
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
the same thing, that bot you created, that gem you created for them.
It was fascinating. It was also we had a couple funny moments. One of my youngest teachers, who she was being very honest with it, but she was being like colloquial, like teacher speak. She's like, last year I had a problem with behavior. She meant behavior management. And she kept going about like how she's changed this year. And Gem and I was like, hold on, time out. I am not a professional behavior therapist, and you might want to seek support. She's like, we were like, oh.
Right.
we,
But
we got the
again,
counselor over here for you.
those are the things too, that's probably the same thing that teacher's same type of question that teacher's asking the students to do,
Yeah.
is to be a little uncomfortable with it. And it might get misinterpreted. And it's
Yes.
great to get that firsthand experience with it
Yeah.
before you turn it into the hands of the kids too.
Yes. Yeah. So I really tried to, create the environment to give them permission to try. The district was great. I think we talked before, you had been to MassQ, which is a
Yes.
fantastic tech conference here in Massachusetts. So I was able to take two teachers from my building. I sent science teachers. I figure a couple of people together who could talk the same content, different grade levels. They went to CuriePod, which I know you've had on your
Mhm.
podcast in the
Great
past.
guys.
Great. And really get it about, I've talked to John's Aaron about like metacognition, like they're really trying to build in, so it's not just a static program. But the culture is building to try things. The day after we came back, one science teacher, Lauren, said, you want to come in and do a mini observation? This is a formal mini observation. I'm going to try CuriePod, and we're going to try a formative assessment where it'll give the students feedback and then they can revise. I was like, go for it. Yeah. And it was fascinating for her to be able to take that and try it the next day and then come talk about it at a staff meeting, the next time.
And I'm sure that the kids were probably intrigued and engaged with it as well. I mean, CuriePod is engaging by itself, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that your science teacher tried.
Yeah.
You created that culture, and kudos to you for creating that culture for that teacher to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to do this. I want you to come in and see it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, you want me to just watch it or do you want me to write it up? She's like, nah, write it up. Go ahead. I was like, okay.
Absolutely. Right. And that's but behind everything else, Sean, I think, because I was lucky enough to have that same type of culture in my building.
Yeah.
Was the fact that, as an administrator, you're like, we got to try. So what we're doing is not working for everybody. It's not working for the majority. Maybe it is, maybe we're getting by. Right.
Yeah.
we got to do something different to meet the kids today. And you're creating, kudos to you again for creating that atmosphere. And it's more than just the AI piece that we're talking about here today too,
Yeah.
because you talk about now adding in some authenticity and some metacognition. So above and beyond like the AI piece, what else are you doing in your building that's building some of these, the culture, I guess?
Yeah.
You're doing some awesome things, it sounds like.
Well, on top of so the district also has done a nice job bringing in some high quality curriculum that really is fostering more discussion with kids. So we're actually seeing the Chromebooks close more, and when they're open, it's more intentional. And that's part of what I've been talking to the staff about is the intentionality, right? Because when we got Chromebooks or we got iPads back in the day, they were just used and they were just more digital worksheets and so I'm seeing more intentionality when the computer's opened now. And I've been I think I've turned my weekly memo into a blog. I've done an 11-part series on metacognition, and it's always something short, research-based, and then like the next week the teachers could implement. And when I'm in common planning time, I'll try to reference that when they're having like a challenge with curriculum or a kid. I'm like, oh, remember what I wrote last week? You might. They're probably like, oh God, here we go again. But it's showing up. It's showing up. Yeah.
And again, it's that consistency piece too, right? Like it's not just you're not doing the one and done PDs. You're not doing the one and done. Hey, sit and get. We're gonna come to the faculty meeting. We're gonna do this training. We're gonna talk about metacognition or agency or whatever it happens to be this month. And then check. That's a check mark. You're actually going into and your teachers are buying into it, and they're like, we're all in.
They're trying it, and I mean that's really the whole part about evaluation. It should be producing growth, and so that's the nice part is that they're trying to see, growth. I also talk about AI. So after I was done my first round of evaluations, I thought to myself, I bet I used Claude. I was like, I wonder if I gave it all my evaluations that I just did, my observations, against those goals we have about metacognition, rigor, clarity, all those things. And could it analyze all those and see how we're doing as a school so I can then feed it back to the teachers? And it did. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. But then I was like, wait, I have all of last year's. I could feed it that and then see if on a baseline when we weren't talking about it and compare it. And it was really great because essentially like metacognition went from last year, all my evaluations was noticed about 12% of the time. And this year, in the fall, it was noticed in observations 54% of the time.
That's awesome. And that's where the growth and the learning and the kind of as a recovering STEM teacher, recovering middle school teacher, as I like to phrase it. And if you're in the middle school, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the kids are. They need to get because knowledge is there, right? Knowledge is available on the Chromebooks, on the phones, whatever, right? YouTube.
Yep.
Right. But it's that metacognition piece, that learning piece, that application part of the learning where we go into depth of knowledge a little bit deeper. And it's not just regurgitate on a test.
To finish that part and then translate to what you were just saying, it's also nice to then validate for staff and pick an area of goal, for us to move forward on. Like higher order thinking was only observed 42% of the time. So, I could just feed this back to them and it's non-judgmental. It's across the school and just say, this is what's observed. So when I do observations again, let's see where we are, So I thought that was helpful for me as a leader also to like look at what you're producing and be able to be transparent about it. The part you said about metacognition and where the kids are going, I just had a son graduate from college and he graduated with international relations and communication degree. He's not using either. He's my older son has started an AI company and he's working in that company and he's coding. like
Awesome.
furiously. He has agents doing multiple work, and he's like telling me, Dad, you need to use co-work and you got to do that. I'm like, I need time to sit with him to learn. But
Yeah.
like he's doing that because he's learned to learn, and he has the capacity to understand and try. And that's uh, these 12, 13-year olds that are at my school right now. Who knows in 10 years what the world will look like, and they have to, as you were saying, those fundamental skills.
Yeah, and you're talking about where you threw all that stuff into Claude and you got your results.
Mm,
Pre using Claude, or let's go, before 2020, before COVID, because
yeah,
AI wasn't mainstream. It was still there because Netflix and your
yeah,
your Apple devices and all that stuff had it in there. That's how they
yeah.
got your whatever. But would you have gotten that data? Would you have taken the time to sit down with your 2 years worth of observations
No.
I mean, and how long would that have taken you?
Well, I was getting ready for this podcast. I was thinking about like I now can do a mini observation, have it written in about 30 minutes. That used to take me an hour and a half. I've created a project. I have 17 different documents in it between rubrics and research for better teaching. John Hattie's work in there, all this stuff where it'll analyze my script. It has like a two-part, prompt. It analyzes it for higher order, all these things. And I dialogue with it. I go back and forth. I push it. I say, I think this, and it says, prove it, and the, and then I have a conversation with the teacher, and I put in our conversation, and then it writes the narrative. And again, then I iterate on it to make sure it's my voice
Absolutely.
and it's authentic. But that takes me about I lost weekends of my life. Like
Yeah.
I wish I had this when I had my kids were younger. I would say, honey, I've got observations to do this weekend, and just be bunkered away in my office, writing, because it's about 2 hours. It used to be over 2 hours per staff member for.
Yeah, that's a lot, and that's overwhelming too. And I'm just thinking like your ELA teachers that
Yeah,
require that essay to be written, and they're getting 100 of them to read
yeah.
over the weekend. Well, here in the Northeast, it's starting to get nice.
Well,
Um,
I don't know about you, and not here.
I mean, well, it's not snowing,
Okay, that yeah,
so it's potential to get nice. It's the end of March, so um, yeah, so it might snow tomorrow. But at any rate,
yeah.
we're not looking at we're looking at a way to get feedback to our kids quicker.
And um, in the right in the right part of the learning process, because
Mm-hmm.
um, I was reading something. We use Newsella or Brisk, and those are really good for formative, like quick writes. And kids, when I talk to kids and I see them using it, I'm like, "Do you like this?" And they're like, "Yeah, I can see where I need to work on my claim. I see
Mm-hmm.
my evidence is lacking." But I've pushed my teachers too. Obviously not for a summative assessment. If a kid gets, how many hours of teacher time are they getting if they're only getting that? Like, I still want to make sure we're pushing that human connection. Like, pull your small group, go over the piece together. So
Mm-hmm.
it's this is the balance that we're gonna have to figure out.
But definitely, it's all about balance. I learned that. I actually learned that on the football field, coaching with one of my colleagues that was talking about balance, and it's huge, right? That's you got to
Yep,
have the work life balance, because like you said, you're a father, you got kids at home, you got to and you got to, but you also got to put food on the table,
yep,
right? And our
yep.
kids, because I tell people too this, kids don't come to school to watch us do our job, right? I mean, so they come to school because they have to, but
Yeah,
right, they're not coming to watch teachers stand up in the front of the classroom and work.
right,
And I
right.
think that's that old industrial model, back when I went to school in the late 1900s, and there's still I was actually just writing something about this today as a result of my conversation in the last episode with Stevie Frank about that best PD being the teacher down the hall, right?
Hmm.
Um, having those conversations and having those that balance between that stuff and the culture you got, Sean, is sounds amazing. And I can hear some teachers out there, possibly going, yeah, that's great for Sean, but I don't have that. So what do you
Hmm.
say? What would you say to that teacher that might be listening to this, if they were in your building
Hmm.
and they're like, well, I don't want to do this. I'm good. I've taught this way for 27 years, which maybe you have one of those. Please
Yeah.
don't call them out.
No,
But
really lucky.
there's that teacher in
Yeah.
every building.
I it's interesting. The other day I went back. I found an old binder of mine, and it has like my original transcripts. It has my old resume from my first job. But
Wow.
in it had my educational philosophy. Like, in the master's program, you had to
Mhm.
write that, and then I had an essay I had to write on the spot. I think for a job interview, and and it was really grounding for me to go back and see like in those essays, I was talking about metacognition. I kind of like, oh my God, it's just been embedded in my mind for so long. I would say to those people, like, what's true and dear to your heart? Why did you get into education? I think we all did it because of the kids in front of you, and
Yeah.
so like, what do they need and how can that nourish you? That's, I guess that's what I would think about. And I think about uh, I think it was my first 2 years of teaching, Judy Palmer. She was an older veteran teacher. She was in her last year of teaching, and she took on an initiative. I think it had to it was some technology at the time. It was mid '90s, so it was probably just like the Mac or something. She
With the
was on her
green and
way out.
yellow.
She did
Yeah.
not need that when she left school, but she, because of the kids, took on the learning to make sure they got what they needed that year, and I think just grounding yourself in why we do it is always important.
Right. And thinking back to some of those teachers and some of those things like, your original educational philosophy and stuff like that. You're also not advocating, you're advocating for AI and using some tech for tech purposes, but there's also still a need to do that worksheet, to do handwriting, right? To do that
Oh,
kinesthetic type stuff, to do the worksheet, to do the written test, right? We're not throwing that stuff out.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned handwriting. It's gone at the middle school level right now. Those kids that I have were, I when I think about AI implementation, the state of Massachusetts at one point said all third graders are going to have to take the MCAS test on a computer.
Mhm.
That we didn't think that through. Like handwriting, we started teaching keyboarding in second grade, so something had to give. It was handwriting, and then the pandemic came in too. So handwriting, our middle schoolers handwriting, even though we're doing more with Chromebooks down and handwriting, we can't. Sometimes the kids can't read their writing now, and luckily I'm attached to the middle school and still have ties there. I'm going back and talking to them about like the importance of it.
Yeah, because as a STEM teacher, I would struggle with that a little bit, because we would do a bridge project, a typical
Yeah,
STEM project, right? I'm just
yeah.
this is my brain thinking, and I'd love your thoughts on this. But we would do a bridge project, and I'm like, well, my kids don't have the engineering skills, they don't have the higher level math skills to be able to, to graph a stress strain curve of a popsicle stick, or understand uh, torsion and shear, and they would know what it was. They could tell you what compression was. They could tell you what tension was. And I'm like, so what's the point of the project? And then at the end of the day, I would say it's the fine motor skills. It's the attention to detail, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's some of the
persistence.
things. I think that's some of the things that handwriting, and I hear cursives kind of starting to make a comeback too in the elementary grades.
I hope
Uh,
so.
that 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 teaches. It's the struggle, right? It's some of those skills we're not going to get up in front of the room and explicitly teach.
Yeah. I think, that goes along with that learning to learn part. We always talk about grit. I think that's been a thing,
Yeah.
talked about for a while, but really in the moment, pointing it out to kids and about perseverance, like you're sticking with this right now, and pointing it out to them, and then also pointing it out in the teacher, like having them model it too. A little bit of it with this AI stuff. I'm going to give this a shot. Let's see how it goes.
Right. You might actually learn something, right? And this is what, I came back from a conference. I was at the McCall conference in Michigan last weekend. And I would tell the people, I'm like, I'm a little selfish when I come to these things as a presenter.
Yeah.
Right. Because I learned something. I'm hoping to teach you guys something. Selfishly, like having a conversation with you, Sean, I'm learning some things. It's going to go into my toolbox. It's gonna make what I do better.
Yeah. And like this, we don't have enough of those in education. This Friday is and in our district is a full PD day, and we are going to have the opportunity to there are different sessions where we're going to be able to sit together. I'm eager to sit with the other principals and administrators, and how are they using AI? What are they doing? Because we push each other. I've been using. Do you know Base 44? It's kind of it's
just
a vibe
started to play with it.
Yeah. Another superintendent told me about it. I'm on a school committee for it, because why not? So
right.
for my anyways, the superintendent there told me about it, and I started playing with it, and I'm like, oh, this is vibe coding. So I've made a bunch of apps on it, and I was showing one principal. I made a voice to memo one, so like I can just push a button on my phone, and it takes what I say and put it in my Google Task. And
oh, cool.
And then he was thinking, like, he has much larger staff than I do, and he couldn't keep track of all the rooms he was in. So he built an app so he can just click like what rooms he was in and when, so we can build a frequency chart and make sure he's equitably getting around. So we're learning from each other, and I can't wait to do more. Another app I built. I mean, this is how I was saying AI is going to be all encompassing. It's not just learning, right? It's like the email, goes across all kinds of domains and affected our job in a lot of ways. I built it middle school, kids like leave at the end of the day and they just kind of leave, and we don't know where they're going, or they're like, hey, I want to go with Dan. My mom said I could go, like, and then we're calling parents, or we also had this situation where parents are either emailing during the day or they're calling, and it's interrupting the secretary all day long up till like we dismiss it too, up to 1:45, and it's just this constant interruption of like who's going where. So I built an app. The elementary school, much bigger, much more complicated, bought something for about $3,000. I paid the $20 a month subscription for Base 44 and built a dismissal app. Parents just go on, they fill out a little survey. There's a dashboard the admin assistant, myself, dean of students, and nurse have, and we can track who's going. If the kid knows they're supposed to go, do we have to tell them what time? And it saved a lot of time in the front office. And that's just I used Claude to write the prompt. I gave the prompt to Base 44 and then iterated from there. And then it took maybe 5 hours, over a weekend.
But it saved your staff 20 hours a week.
Yes.
Yes. And a headache.
Yes.
And again, it's the culture of constantly learning.
Yes.
And modeling that learning. So what's coming up next in your school? What are you building now with your staff? And what as what do we got, about 3 or 4 months left entering the final?
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of the doldrums now as we head up to this time from mid-February to spring break is kind of in the Northeast. It's dreary. It's dull.
Yeah.
It's a long stretch without a day.
Well, I'll tell you what's coming next, or I think, but I'll go into the dreary day. For fun, I built a snow day calculator app.
Love those.
I got 6 out of 7 this year. Yes. This past Monday, it was wrong. We were supposed to have a delay according to the app, but I took 4 years worth of data of when every day we had a cancellation or a delay. I gave it to AI. It created a mathematical formula. I put that into base 44.
Right.
It checks 4 different weather sites, and yeah, that's just for fun.
But that's fun. But that teacher, I'm just thinking I would throw that up on my smart board in my room
Yeah,
and say, "What do you think, guys?" And then we'd have a little contest, a little March Madness contest with it type of thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I would always throw up snow day calculator on my being in
And
Western New York. Yeah, we
uh,
we
I might send the screenshot of it to the superintendent once in a while just to nudge him along. Yeah.
yeah, we had one kid that used to DM the superintendent or tag her on when Twitter was bigger than it
Oh
is
yeah, yeah,
now, or X
yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, and they would go back and forth. That's the fun stuff though about being in education.
Yes. Yeah, it is. So I think coming next, we just started today, MCAS testing season, the state testing.
Oh, sorry.
We're in it, but there's a lot of I've encouraged teachers. This is the time of year for project-based learning. Like get the kids, doing something novel, something different, and it's a time of year to apply the learning that they've had all year. So hopefully, there's some good projects coming up. Our staff are very creative and they do like Shark Tank and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love doing a Shark Tank project. I never got to the point where I could get somebody from the outside to come in and do it. Like I was gonna always wanted to
Oh,
do it in the auditorium and have them
oh,
actually present.
yeah.
Right? I
We've
mean,
had,
how
we've
cool
had
is
some
that?
we've had some community members. We actually had a staff member's husband who works in tech. One of my staff members used to work at TJ Maxx or TJX in corporate, and she would use her corporate speak with them. So it's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, but that comes back to that authenticity piece that you're preaching and is part of your culture and you're reinforcing every day.
Yep.
And a shout out to the community members for coming in and offering because they I found that they really want to. They want to
Yes.
be part of the school. They want to be in there.
And it shows the kids like different pathways for them too.
With stuff that they enjoy, right? It's
Yeah.
like doing a Shark Tank project. There's a lot of ELA content in there that
Yeah.
your ELA teacher might not like initially say, yeah, but there's a lot of
She's actually
copywriting.
the initiator of it because it really talk about like presentation and nailing down
Mhm.
concise language, and so she was the initiator of that project. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's huge because that's not that goes to that when am I going to use it piece that we're probably going to start seeing that on the Facebook and in the social medias now again, as it rolls into tax season. Um, these will always frustrate me. I'm glad I learned how to do the Pythagorean theorem during, tax season. But you know what? I build decks and stuff because that's what I do as a STEM teacher, and I build
Yeah,
things, and it's like I use the Pythagorean theorem all the time, man.
yeah,
Just because
yeah,
you as a
yeah.
car salesman don't.
Well, you talk about what's coming next. I got to think as we wrap up this year. I do want to like, where are after this AI PD day on Friday, actually, I built an app for that. So the teachers across the
There's an app
district
for
are
that.
going to reflect after
Nice.
each one is, instead of doing the typical survey like 1 through 4, how would you rate it? It's like what stuck with you or what jumped out at you? What question do you still have? And there's 3 sessions. After the third session, when they hit enter, it summarizes their learning and their questions, and then it gives them three ideas that they could carry on with, like based on what you said about formative assessment. Try having a dialogue with AI, or it'll give them ideas. So I want to see where the staff is, now that I'm guessing more than 7 have used it now, so, and then take some lead from them about what they think we need next year. I also think we need to really dig into um, teaching kids about AI.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of thinking. I did a post on LinkedIn about it. I, I think I think driver's ed model is kind of what I'm thinking about. Is like elementary kids are passengers. They sit in the car and they're watching
Hmm.
teachers maybe use it. They're learning about what AI, like how a car works, how AI works. Because they're going to have to know at elementary level because toys are starting to have AI in it, and they need to know that it's not human like. Middle school, I think, is a time more of like sandboxed, where they start
Mhm.
to learn to dialogue or try things out, but in a very controlled way. It's kind of like they've sort of got a learner's permit, or they're going through driver's ed. High school, I could see, and that's going to be beyond me, but that's like driver's ed. Now they've got their permit, and they can't drive with someone in the car. And then like 11th, 12th grade is more like, okay, they're free to go. So I think middle school next year, we really need to look at programs and ways to dig in with the kids about the deeper on authenticity, prompting, and using AI.
That's a that's a great vision. That's a great vision for your school, Sean. I love what you're doing there, and I like the analogy too. That's a great, I never just again
Yeah.
going back to I had a little bit of selfishness here. I just learned a little something from that, and
Thanks.
I'm excited for you and your staff coming up because that sounds like you're pushing your kids, you're pushing your teachers, you're not just relying on what you did yesterday. And you got to. I would love to see how this app that you just talked about, and I'm just thinking from a teacher perspective. You
Yeah.
go to a PD day, your curriculum person or your principal sends you out the in your case probably a Google form because you said Chromebooks. So I'm assuming you're a Google
Yeah.
school. We
Yep.
were a
Yep.
Microsoft school.
Yep.
So whatever form it is, and click yes. 1 through 10. How
Yep.
effective was it? And then the questions. But the fact that you built that app that's now going to give the teacher some actionable steps in
Yep.
a way that, and it sounds like it's in a way that isn't like, hey, you have to go do this, right? Because you've built that culture, right? But in a way that if you haven't thought about it, try this. And then I'm assuming they could take that and put it into or have a sit down with you and discuss,
Yeah.
or
Actually,
it's anonymous, I'm assuming.
it's anonymous and it's taking a big risk. And we're using it with the whole district, all like 300 teachers. So
Nice.
um, they can download it as a PDF or screenshot it. The other nice part is it is anonymous, but we get a dashboard where we can hit an AI button and it'll summarize all the learnings for us. So
Absolutely. Right, right.
yeah,
So you're getting a report out of it, which you would get
yep,
anyways, but then you would have to take it another step. Yeah, you would get
yep,
a dashboard of some sort in the back end of Google because there's teachers use that stuff all the time.
yep.
Um, I think I'm. Have you ever presented at MassQ? I think this is something a great thing for you to talk about over
Yeah.
there.
Maybe Jed has our friend Jed Stefanowitz, who you were talking about, has encouraged me to. I'm thinking about it. Yes.
Yeah, I would because Sean, you're doing some amazing things.
Well, thank you.
And I'm gonna challenge you right here. I'm coming out there in October,
Okay.
right? And even as a Bills fan, I'm gonna go to Foxborough and I'm gonna go to Gillette Stadium and I will proudly wear my Bills Mafia gear there. Um, I hope the Patriots win everything except the 2 games against the Bills and in the playoff game that they'll lose against the Bills in Highmark Stadium. But that's for another day. I'll talk smack the whole time because
Well,
that's
maybe
life.
we need to run some simulations in AI.
Yeah, I'm afraid that probably wouldn't turn out well. But I can talk smack with the best of them. Um, but no, I would love to see some of this stuff. I want. Can you send me the results when we're done with this though? I'd love to see what
Yeah.
happened with that.
Yeah. I'll send you the app and I'll send you the results.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up here, Sean, somebody wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
I would say the best thing is, I have a profile on LinkedIn, and I guess it's appropriate to give out my email address at school. I don't.
Yeah, we'll just send them to LinkedIn and
Yep.
and connect with you there and message you that way.
Yep. I do work in Neshoba. Yes.
Neshoba School District in where in Massachusetts now?
Central Massachusetts. So it's 3 towns together, and Neshoba.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome. So Sean, thanks for coming on. Thanks for reaching out and wanting to come on the show. It was great chatting with you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing what you do, and everything that Sean's contact information will be down in the show.
And I'll see you in October, if not talk before.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much for coming on.
Okay, thank you. Have a good spring.